Ignore that one.
Yeah, this one and this one.
Yeah, is that okay?
So, good evening. This is the Housing, Health, and Public Safety meeting. Apologies for getting started late. We sort of double booked the room. So thanks for your patience. Tonight is essentially a one agenda issue. We're just going to be hearing from Charlene Myers about an idea she has and she's working very hard on. I want to just share that I know Charlene personally. She is a retired principal from Cincinnati Public Schools and has the honor of worked with my husband for decades. We're going to say honor. We're
going to go with honor.
Yeah,
that's a good word. Actually, one time Craig came to the council meeting and we were chit-chatting. I'm like, we're going to get in trouble. Let's stop chit-chatting. And it was one of those volatile, council meetings.
Oh, spicy.
I'm unfamiliar.
So that made people think we were chit-chatting about the volatile meeting, and we totally weren't. We were gossiping about Cincinnati Public Schools. Well, thank you for having me. So you guys know that I've been presenting about Focus, and we have meals once a month. Well, one of the things that kind of struck me last year was when the apartment complex kind of went without heat. And I started talking to Kevin Finn, who is a Norwood resident, who runs Shelter House and the warming centers in Cincinnati, and asking him, what's in Norwood? And he said, there isn't anything in Norwood. And his perception, again, everybody has a perception, is that that Norwood has always felt that, well, it's in Cincinnati, so they can go to Cincinnati. But that's not always feasible. It's like a 3-mile walk for some people. We've partnered with Norwood View School, I've told you guys that. And that's really far from Cincinnati if people are having issues. So also through the meals, I've run into a lot of homeless people who come to my meals pretty regularly. And one, his name is Doug. He lost his foot because of the cold. And talked to Kathy, the head librarian. There are people that are hanging out in the library when it's cold. So all of those things kind of led me to kind of this pathway in terms of how I'm here. So what I hope to do today is to kind of go over the what, why, how, and what's next, and kind of give you guys a kind of outline of what we're looking at, because we're not going to do what Cincinnati does for a number of reasons. We don't have the funding to do what Cincinnati does. Cincinnati opens up all their CRCs. They have staff. I don't have staff. I'm staff, So that's, that's the biggest thing. And I don't have a budget like Cincinnati has a budget, just like Norwood doesn't have a budget that Cincinnati has. And so, and now I can't read that, and it looked good when I had it on the screen, so sorry. Warming shelter would open when the weather turns a certain temperature, and what Kevin had given me information about is that it would be 20 degrees. That's when Cincinnati basically opens theirs. So that's kind of like the lead that we're taking, because there would be an announcement on the news, Cincinnati's opening up their warming shelters, and we could do the same thing for Norwood. We'd be open for a period of time, again, not like Cincinnati. We would be open for at least 3 days, could be more than that. I mean, we have funding for a total of 15 days, so why do we pick 15 days? Because on average, Cincinnati is below 20 degrees for 15 days. Now, as well as I do, it's going to be 20 degrees one day, and it's going to be 40 degrees the next day. Like tomorrow, it's supposed to snow. Really? Probably not. But, who knows? Hope springs eternal. Poor guy who's got to watch the weather and call school tonight. Most of the shelters are open at the temperature mark and stay open, after that point for the whole winter. I think Kevin stays open for most of the winter. Again, we wouldn't be doing that. We're going to start small because I don't know where this is going to go. You know what I mean? So we don't want to start with, hey, we're open, we're doing this. And we're not doing anything overnight. So that's a big issue. I've met with the building inspector and the building director.
Manager, Ralph.
And, his big thing is, are you going to have cots? Nope. So, it's just going to be a place where people can come during the day, get 3 meals a day, and then go. Kevin has said that he is going to allot 75 beds that he always has left over just because. And so we can transport people and, up to 75. There's no way we're coming close to 75. I want that to be clear. But transport people to Shelter House in the evening and then transport them back to Norwood where they actually live or, have a place. And again, we'd be open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And those are approximate hours because I've got to get them to Shelter House by 6:45. So, if we close at 5:30, you know what I mean? And they're going to pick up at Shelter House at 6 o'clock. So again, we might open at 6:30, that kind of thing. So those are pretty much approximate hours. So, people ask me this all the time, like, why should we care? Okay, so there are four main pillars that predict life expectancy, and I found this out, and I found this pretty interesting. The average life expectancy of citizens of the city of Norwood is 10 years less than the average life expectancy in Hamilton County. It's 69.9, in Hamilton County, parts of Hamilton County, 79.9. That's pretty interesting, and that's not me making it up. That's from Does Place Matter? And the answer is yes. When you look at the map of life expectancy in this document, Does Place Matter? You'll see Norwood is light green, and everything else around it is dark green, and that has to do with the life expectancy. Now, do we naively think that we're going to solve life expectancy in Norwood? No, but we are trying to attack the food insecurity piece. We're trying to attack the nutrition piece, in our meals and in this program. So again, I'm not naive in thinking, well, now everybody in Norwood's going to go up 10 years. That's not going to happen. But it is kind of, what I equate it with is something, when I was a young teacher, I had a professor, and I thought this was so hokey at the time, and I rolled my eyes. Yes, I was the 23-year-old that rolled my eyes because I knew everything. And she told this thing that teaching is like this. There are starfish that are on the beach, and there's the guy throwing the one starfish back, and another guy comes by and says, what are you doing that for? I mean, that's clearly not going to matter. And he says, well, it mattered to that one. And that's what this is all about, that it's going to matter to that person that's sitting at the shelter. It's going to matter to the people that come to the meal. It's not going to change that, but it is going to matter, I think. So last year, although for a short time, entire apartment building went without heat. Again, this would kind of not solve it, but help that and kind of assist with that if that ever happened again. Right now, the residents of Norwood don't have an established place to go if their heat goes out or if something else happens, and we do have people that are living on the streets. There are several of our residents who hang out at the library, which I talked about, when the temperature drops. Kathy said she sees between 7 to 10 people once the temperature drops. And some of our residents hang out at the food pantries, like Ashland Food Pantry. There will be people literally in there, because I go there on Thursdays, and there will be people in there on Thursdays the whole time. And it's because they have no place else to go. Food insecurity exists in Norwood, and we see it at our regular meals that are attended each month. So it's here. We may not want to say it's here, but it is here. Am I done? No. Okay, so how will it happen? So we've partnered with Christ Temple Church, which is, for lack of a better word, that's not the full name of the church either. It's the old Korean church.
The former Korean Methodist on Williams and Ellesmere.
Yeah, and we've partnered with them, and they've agreed to open their doors. This will allow us to have 3 meals at the church, open from 6 to 6. There'll be TV for entertainment, place to relax, no cots, no beds, and there'll be paid security. So the paid security will always be present at the facility, so there will not be a need for, and if anything gets out of hand, I mean, I know how to dial 911, and that kind of thing. But I have a pretty good relationship with these, guests, so I don't see that as an issue. I had a situation that kind of threw me at our last meal. We did have a guest that got a little, but again, I'm going to say this out loud. I mean, I was in Cincinnati Public for 35 years. I think I can handle somebody that gets a little mouthy and, all that. That's my superpower. So how long? So we'd love to say we'd be open the same amount of time as Cincinnati. It's not going to happen. They run their warming center through CRCs that have full staff, and Cincinnati does dedicate some of their budget to this. So that's how that all works. We have funding for it to be open for at least 14 days. I mean, could I extend that funding if it's a super bad winter? Absolutely, but it's not going to go beyond, I would say at best, it would be like 20 days would be when my funding runs out. I don't see us going below 20 degrees for 20 days, I mean, I just don't see that as a reality. Again, it could happen. And we know that Cincinnati weather changes changes pretty rapidly. We also know that this is a first-year program, so we're going to adjust as we go. You know what I mean? Kind of reflect, hear from you guys, what are we doing wrong, what are we doing right, to see how we can kind of adjust as we go. So that's going to be a lot of what this looks like, making mistakes, but certainly I think making, learning, having a learning process as we go through. And so I'm here to answer any questions that you have, but that's pretty much the long and short of it. I mean, I think I've covered all the bases of, what we're looking at. We're not looking at it overnight. We're only looking for 3 square meals, and we're only looking for, and we're having security on presence all the time, so it won't be an issue.
I can also share, we did meet, Charlene and I did meet with Ralph, and there was some initial questions about zoning. But from Ralph's perception, this would fall under a church responsibilities or normal activities. So for him, he didn't feel like any zoning needed to occur. I can also say,
Could I just jump in
No,
for another
absolutely,
meet? I had a meeting yesterday with Brandon Smith, who, I think that's his name, who's at the fire department. He had no issue because he said, we're not doing anything that's above and beyond what the church is already doing. We're using, we are going to bring a warmer in, which basically plugs into, it's like a refrigerator, except it goes the other way. We're not going to do anything that's beyond what the church already has. We are going to use their kitchen for warming up food. La Soup is also going to partner with us to bring in food. So I have a long-standing relationship with La Soup. I was one of the first schools that did their Give a Crock, say it right, Give a Crock program. So that's really good too. So all of those things are kind of in our favor.
Couple just random questions. One is about staff ratios. If that's something, when you've looked at other communities that do this, is there some sort of ratio that you try to consider?
Yeah, I have not looked at that, although I do have a meeting with Kevin to kind of ask that question. So what we're thinking of is like 3, so with security, then beyond that, 3 volunteers per meal, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And again, based on the fact that we might have no more than like 20 people. If we have 50 people, when we normally have a meal, we have about 10 people that are manning that, and that's without security. Mm-hmm. So that kind of thing, I think, is a good question, and that's something that I'll ask Kevin.
And this was a question from Mike Skelly, who's he was just wondering about contingencies, and what that would mean is, let's say we're snowed in, like the whole city is snowed in. What might contingencies be? And I'm not sure you need to necessarily, because one of my thoughts was, well, if that happens and I've got, I had a dinner party and 15 people were there, I have some more facilities than, I have bedrooms, mm-hmm. I have bathrooms, I have a kitchen. If they were to be snowed in, what might a contingency plan look like? And I don't know if that necessarily needs to be, excuse me, legislated or like that, but just sort of, what would your plan be? And maybe it's just we hunker down.
Yeah, I think they just do hunker down. I think that's what's going to have to happen if they're snowed in. I mean, obviously we don't want people unsafe on the roads. So, and again, how frequently does that you know what I mean? Like the odds of that happening, are pretty slim, because we're trying to do our best to kind of get everybody to, that would require like a level 3, I think it is.
Emergency.
Yeah, a level 3 snow emergency. So I just think it would be stay in place, which, we'd still not have cots, but that would happen if the church had a function and there was a snow storm. There would be people staying overnight at the church, so.
Any issues with being across the street from a school?
Yeah, I thought of that, and I've talked to Mary about it, and I'm having lunch with her on December 6th, and so I am going to,
Ronan, the superintendent, for those watching at home.
That's perfect. I am going to meet with Mary to kind of talk to her about that, but that is a consideration. I mean, the two churches that we were looking at was one here, the Love Church, and the other one, and they're both right next to a school. And it almost seems like all the churches are right next to a school. Like the Vineyard Church, which is another church we could use, there's a school in the Vineyard Church.
Yeah.
So I think that's a question of security. I think that's a question of making sure that people, understand, where they are and, how they're going to behave. I did tell, we're not doing, it's kind of like when I ran prom, you're not going in and out and running in and out. That's not happening. Yeah, you're going out to get your camera. Sure. Isn't that your phone? Actually, in the olden days, it wasn't. So it is, we are going to have some like guidelines about, when you're in, and this is what you're doing, and we have this open, you could potentially not be welcome back if you're going to violate rules and kind of do that kind of thing. So we'll have kind of some standard rules of, what we go over with people of what we expect them to follow. The thing about a school that I did look up in terms of the law, now this is the law, not about like true safety of kids, right? The law states that you can't live, if you're a sex offender, you can't live within, and nobody's living here, you know what I mean? It is up to the person who has that to not go in those directions. And I'm not going to guarantee that everybody who comes to my meal, isn't got some kind of background. I mean, we don't do we don't ID people, let's put it that way. But I do think with security, working with Mary, which we have a good relationship. I actually have a cell phone number in my purse. I think we can work that piece out. And I'm very cognizant of that, having been a former school principal.
I appreciate you doing this, especially it's a need, Norwood doesn't have this. And not to put more pressure on, but we've talked prior about cooling centers, which is becoming more of an issue in the summer. So I'm sure you've thought of it too, but.
Just to see how this goes, and let's see what happens, and let's see what lessons we learn. Again, I think it's going to be bumpy, but it's not going to be bumpy to the point where it's, newsworthy. You know what I mean? Now the news is coming to Norwood and saying, what I would hope is I have a good relationship. I've been on the show A New Day with one of my former teachers again, Tiana Henry, worked in my school. And she has us on every so often. I've been on there 3 times. So, I'd hope they do a positive story, and that would be my goal, to have them do a positive story about Norwood and how we're doing this and, what's happening.
To sort of hop on the cooling, because that was one of my questions, and actually random, I ran into someone last night after dance class who was asking me about this very thing. And I'm wondering if you have the funding for 15 days for a warming in the winter, and you only use 5, might you be able to
Absolutely.
Utilize that funding for the cooling in the summer?
Yeah, absolutely, because I have year-to-year funding, so that can happen. Yeah, that can happen. And again, it would just be about getting staff and getting help and all that other good stuff.
I guess my question, is there anything like the community could do to help? Do you need any?
Yeah, if they want to go through our process to be volunteers, that would be great. On our website, focuscincinnati.org, there's a way to hit a volunteer button, and that would be helpful to just, and I don't ask for like background checks or anything like that, but I just want to know that they're willing to volunteer, you know what I mean? And that this isn't like, I'm here and here I am, I'm volunteering, it's not that look, it's more about, working, lifting things and working, like, are you willing? I was fortunate, another person that I know is Dr. Jonathan Brown, who heads City Gospel, and so when I first got this job, I connected with him, and they basically handed me all of their forms and said, here, use this, and so I have a volunteer form that they use, which is like, can you lift, a little bit of weight? Do you have a problem with working with this type of person? So that's like kind of the pre-questions of our volunteer form. So if they want to volunteer, people want to volunteer, and they're in good standing and all of that good stuff, then that's fine. And again, I'm not doing background checks or anything like that, but just that they want to come out and volunteer would be very helpful, because I have a feeling that's what our biggest need is going to be, is volunteers. And then just in terms of meals, like in cooking, we're going to pre-cook a lot of things, and we have access. I don't know if you guys go to the festival in Finneytown, the Greek festival in Finneytown. So that's our other church, and so they have a full kitchen and a full freezer, like walk-in freezers and stuff like that. So we're going to cook from there and freeze and then bring over, okay, so that we're not kind of cooking, it'll all be done, all we have to do is defrost, put it in the oven, and we're done. So the equipment that we're using, like, the fire chief asked, he wasn't the fire chief, but the fire inspector asked me, like, are we gonna fish fry or something like that? Nope, we're just like using the oven, and using the stove if the soup drops off soup, because sometimes they drop it off hot, sometimes they don't. So it's just a matter of like heating it up. So those are the kind of things that we're going to have. I mean, breakfast will probably look like Panera because I get the Panera donation. So, and then lunch would be La Soup, and then dinner would be like a chicken dinner or something like that.
If you're open, would you like food donations?
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, that would be great. That's a good question. Thank you.
Or I know you said you had a TV for entertainment. Like, would you like books or anything of that?
Yeah, I was thinking about buying magazines and stuff like that too. So yeah, if that could happen, that would be great too. Crossword puzzles. I think Sudoku's in
that was
this
what
week.
I had in mind.
Yeah,
It's like if I were bored and
yeah,
excited.
exactly. The only thing I was told is no cots. I was like, I gotcha. And there's a couch in the space, and there's also round tables in the space. And space only holds 76 people, so I don't, again, see us going beyond that. I think one of our meals, because we serve ribs, we got 82 people to come.
Oh, yeah.
My thought would be it'd be helpful to have maybe even this length of overview for the community at a main council meeting. What do you guys think?
I'll change the font on some of those slides too, because I'm like, wow, I can't read that.
Color background.
Yeah, the
I
color
think it's
background.
good info to put out there.
Yeah, I think the more the better, because
Yeah.
then volunteers, donations. I know you guys have your access to individuals who need these services, but any businesses too, I would say, if it's the Chamber of Commerce, like, hey, if you see someone who's experiencing homelessness, or give them this information, and so they know. Because to me, the more you can spread, the more people you can reach.
So that will be another question, is how will the information be spread?
So what I'd like to do is do the same thing that Kevin does with Cincinnati. The warming centers are open in Cincinnati, and put it like they do
On the bar.
On the
On the
bar,
days.
yeah, with like schools are closed, which is what everybody's looking for tomorrow. But the other thing is, it's going to be through the pantries, because that's where people go, okay? So Ashland Pantry sees 60 people, she saw 85 people last week, so it is through the pantries. There's another pantry, one of the guys who goes to the Ashland Pantry and comes to my meals has yelled at me that there's another pantry on Montgomery and I don't go there. I'm like, yes, I have nothing else to do. So anyway, and there's a pantry in Zion, so that would be the other one. So those are the big ones, that I see where there's a volume of people, and there are people that are appearing to experience homelessness or have some issues. So that's where I would put the word out, is in those pantries and in on the news. I mean, believe it or not, people have Facebook, and people have, you might not think it, but they do. And so, that would be the other place, is to put it out there on Norwood Together. I'm connected with Norwood Together, Norwood Strong, Norwood Something Else. There's like 5 of them that I have on my, yeah.
And also, I think it's important to circle back that you are connected with Kevin Finn, who's the Executive Director of Strategies to Prevent Homelessness. So he's the one who first told me about the Street Reach app. So the fact that he lives in Norwood is a real great thing for our community, and that he is really like boots on the ground. Like he knows his stuff. So this is, to me, feels very thoughtful, professional. This has been very well vetted. I love the fact that you've met with so many people and are not afraid to make any calls that you need to. So I'm really excited about this.
Yeah.
All right, ladies, thank you.
All right.
Thank you for putting up with me for being late. I was
Oh.
like, crap,
Oh,
75.
we were late too.
We were late too. It's all good.
It all worked out.
Yeah,
Welcome
75
to
was-
small town politics. You can, we just kind of roll with it. So,
Well, I was totally fine until I hit 75.
Oh, yeah.
So if we don't have any community comments, which I don't like, let me check Facebook real quick. Hold on. Every once in a while, someone will put a question on.
Are we on the?
Nope. Nope.
It's
So,
live streamed.
Oh, it is live stream.
oh yeah, it's a picture here. Yeah, there were no comments, so we'll go ahead and close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.